We figured out a way to kind of use AI to scale up content in a way that's not junky. And so we do a lot of AI location pages. We just did like 20,000 location pages for a client. No one cares about your website. AI overviews have replaced about 15% of the local packs. Well, certainly all this AI stuff is causing the most upheaval, I think, in the industry. It really started amping up this year when Google rolled out AI overviews to everywhere.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have a very special guest, Andrew Shotland. He needs no introduction, but yeah, as of now, he's the founder and CEO of Local SEO Guide. Welcome, Andrew, to our show.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here. Hello, everyone out there and wherever you are.
Lovely. Andrew, before we move any forward, you have had a long journey. So why don't you talk us through how it all started? How is it going right now? And a bit about Local SEO Guide, your agency, what are your core offerings, and we'll take it off from there.
Sure. So let's see. My journey has been long. I've been doing internet stuff kind of forever. I helped start Showtime Network's first website in, I think, 1993 or 4. And then I quickly joined NBC's startup internet group in New York and just helped them try to figure out, well, what does a TV network do in this new thing called the internet? I ended up running NBC.com for a while back when it was kind of odd to see URLs on TV. And I did a lot of the first, hey, you're watching TV, go to the internet and click on this thing or do something and something will happen. I did a lot of things like that, which was kind of cool. Several years later, I helped start a company called Insider Pages, which was an early version of Yelp.
Yeah.
And that's really where I learned SEO. I had no idea what SEO was. And one of our investors told us, hey, try this thing called SEO. And I found some guy who knew some guy who knew some guy who told me some tricks like, hey, update your title tags and things like that. We ended up growing pretty rapidly by just doing basic SEO stuff and promoting the brand. And we ended up getting a lot of links through a lot of promotions we did. And so because we had a national data set of businesses in the US, we started growing rapidly, and we were probably the first or one of the first big local directory sites to do SEO. And so we grew really quickly. In fact, I think at one point we were one of the fastest growing websites on the planet. Like this is before Facebook and YouTube started and all that kind of stuff. And anyhow, I didn't know what I didn't know about SEO, and we were able to raise a bunch of money from some venture capitalists like Sequoia Capital and SoftBank, and we started hiring people, and we hired a head of marketing who decided we wanted to redo the website. We rebuilt the website, and we introduced a technical SEO problem at the time I didn't understand, and we ended up losing like all of our traffic overnight. We had at the peak, I think we had about 5 million people a month coming, but one day we had it, next day we didn't. And it was all because of a technical thing that I could solve today in like 2 seconds. But at the time, I didn't know what I was doing and I couldn't find anyone to help me. And by the time we had kind of figured out what the problem was, our investors got tired of us because we hadn't figured out how to make money. We just figured out how to do SEO. And so we ended up selling the company to CitySearch and I got fired. And the day I got fired, I happened to be having drinks with the guy who ran the LosAngelesTimes.com website. And he was all excited because he just got approval to redesign his website. And I said, well, what are you doing about SEO? And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. And I told him, I said, let me tell you what happened to me today. And I told him this story. And he kind of freaked out and then asked if he could hire me to do some consulting. And I was like, of course, I don't have anything better to do. And so the LA Times became my first SEO consulting client, which was kind of a cool first client. I guess I had a kind of a good network at the time and people were just waking up to kind of needing to hire people to do SEO consulting. And so suddenly people just started calling me and say, hey, I hear you're doing SEO consulting. Can we hire you? And I'd say within a month, I had like 4 clients. And within 3 months, I had like 10 clients. And I remember at one time, my wife said, hey, are you going to look for a job? And I was like, I'm kind of working around the clock on this SEO stuff. I think I've found a job, right? And that was almost 20 years ago. And so I turned that into Local SEO Guide. And we're now, I guess what you would call a boutique SEO agency. We do SEO for anybody. Like we don't just say we only do local SEO. So for example, we do e-commerce. Walmart is a client of ours. We do media. So Rotten Tomatoes was a client of ours. The Onion was a client of ours. I did SEO for the Onion. I always loved that. But we do a lot of work with single locations and multi-locations, and that's probably about half of our business. And we've been doing that for forever. So we have a pretty good specialization there. We do all the typical things that you'd want an SEO agency to do. We do audits and strategy, technical consulting, scale content creation. So we figured out a way to kind of use AI to scale up content in a way that's not junky. So we do a lot of AI location pages. We just did like 20,000 location pages for a client. And we do link building. And then we do Google Maps work. And then kind of what I'd like to say is like special projects. So we like to do stuff that most agencies won't touch because it's not like you can't put it in a package. You just have to figure it out. And so like if you're, let's say Walmart hired us and the ask was, we need to make $1 billion with local SEO. Like, how do you do that? And it was just like, okay, put up a whiteboard, grab a bunch of data and start to put together a case that says, okay, here's how a company like Walmart can make $1 billion. They're not all like that. It's always fun to talk about that one because Walmart literally won't do something unless it makes like $1 billion because they're that big. But we'd like to do like these kind of special data projects, like, hey, figure out why our taxonomy is really bad or something like that, or how to improve it to get more traffic, things like that. And that's what we do.
Lovely, lovely. Quite a journey, I must say. And then talking about, Local SEO Guide, your agency, has kind of become one of the go-to agencies for multi-location SEO. So talking about multi-location SEO, often feels like trying to juggle chainsaws. So what is one mistake 90% of franchisee brands still make? And what is your advice in terms of how they should fix it?
Franchise. Franchise is one of the common, I don't know if I'd call it a mistake, but this is an example of a special project we did that was kind of illuminating. We had a client that was a franchise with about 250 franchisees around the country. And they all had their own website. So franchisehouston.com, franchiseatlanta.com, that kind of thing. They all had different websites, meaning they weren't all in the same CMS. They looked all different. They didn't have any standards. And some were really good and most of them were really bad because most locations don't want to manage a website. And so this corporation wanted to basically bring them all in-house under a single domain. And the franchisee association was very concerned that they would lose their rankings if they consolidated them all because they suddenly didn't have the word Houston or Atlanta in the keyword in the domain names and things like that. And so they hired us to do an analysis and figure out what would happen if they merge these things. And so we did a lot of historical research, like who's done this in the past. And then we did a lot of SERP research where we basically determined that the national corporate domain almost always outranked the local domain for any non-brand query, almost always. And so what that gave us confidence in is like you could push these all into the same domain and not lose traffic. In fact, you'd probably have net gain in traffic over time as all the links go into one domain. And that thing is taken care of over time. And that's in fact what they did, and it happened. And I would say in every case where we've seen a similar situation, it always made sense for the franchise to have a single domain versus multiple geo domains for the franchisees. So I don't know if that's a mistake, but if you're a franchisee or you're doing marketing for a franchise, it's definitely something you should consider in your long-term plan. Is maybe it might be better to have it all under one domain.
Absolutely. And talking about, you also touched upon all the AI stuff that you're doing, right? So with Google's AI overviews reshaping SERPs now, what are you seeing right now in terms of winners versus losers and local search visibility? Who is staying out of the curve there?
Actually, I don't know if I know who the winners and losers are. I can tell you some observations in general about what I've seen. So a bunch of different things. So I think if you're an SEO, you've heard of this term called the crocodile effect. Yeah. Which is if you look in Google Search Console, you'll see a chart for impressions going this way and clicks going that way, like that, like a crocodile mouth. And a few weeks ago, I observed something I'll call the local SEO AI or local search AI crocodile effect, where we observed if you chart the presence of AI overviews against the presence of local packs in the keywords for our clients with their store locators or the location pages, what we saw is AI overviews growing and local packs declining, kind of like a crocodile mouth. And what this right now, the data we've seen, which is of course a sample, so it's not definitive, but across thousands of domains that we've looked at, actually that's overstating it, across probably like 100 domains that we've looked at, I'd say AI overviews are have replaced about 15% of the local packs.
Yeah.
And so we think that trend's going to keep happening because if you think about it, if Google, like what's the point in showing an AI overview in a local pack if it's both lists of businesses? You don't need both of them. So we think over time, the local pack is going to get subsumed into the AI overviews and it won't be a separate thing anymore. And then as far as what we see that seems to be working for AI overviews, like we think we've cracked not the whole code. We've cracked like a very small part of the code. Like who knows how this stuff really works. What we've noticed is that when we deliberately get mentions for our brands or client brands on relevant forum sites like Reddit or Quora, but there's a lot more than those. We almost always see a direct correlation in increased visibility in AI overviews.
Right.
And then we also see in Search Console page 1 rankings go up, which we suspect are just them reporting on AI overviews. And so if you're a local business and you want to figure out AI, or at least how to show up in these things, my recommendation is to do a search that you want to rank for. And when the search result comes up, click on the forums tab in Google. There's a forums tab, and there is a list of domains and conversations from different forums that Google says are the most relevant for that query. And we don't know for sure, but I'm relatively confident that is a roadmap for Google's AI training data. And so that is a strong suggestion that you go join those communities and get active on those communities. And we think that's valuable for two reasons. The first is by showing up on these relevant threads with your brand, you'll probably rank better in AI. Right. And then an even better reason is that's where your potential customers are looking for help. And so you might actually convert out of just being inactive with those guys.
And then how do you think, digital PR, you did mention about link building and all these brand mentions. How do you think digital PR kind of plays a role in getting these brand mentions out there, which in return kind of helps you with your positioning or ranking on different LLMs out there?
Well, we think, or we suspect, that right now the large language models are kind of dumb. I mean, they're amazing, but they're dumb. Meaning, if you get mentioned on any old web page a million times, you'll show up, or you're more likely to show up. So that'll change. Like they'll get better at having like page rank or whatever they call it, right? But for now, so digital PR, I think, is a totally good investment because if you can get mentioned on citation sources that these things trust and you just on more pages, like why not? I don't know that I'd do it just for the benefit of AI. I'd want to have some other metrics that it's going to help. Like you just get the AI as like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of also helps you if you're doing the right thing the right way. It also kind of helps you with your increase in overall authority of the website, right? Which is a long-term, benefit.
Although I've really kind of evolved, I think, or at least I'm telling myself I have. I kind of am starting to really embrace the idea that no one cares about your website. And your website is really like the place I go to hire you or to contact you, maybe, but not to find you, if that makes any sense. And what I mean by that is I can take, let's say I have my site's called Local SEO Guide. I don't have this on it, I should, but let's pretend I had a guide about how to do local SEO on my site. As a user, where do you think I'm going to find more valuable information about how to do local SEO? On a blog post I wrote 3 years ago on my website, or in a conversation on Reddit in the local SEO subreddit, where 100 people are weighing in on, oh no, don't do it this way, do it that way. And I think it's almost always going to be the Reddit. And so my philosophy, or our philosophy now, I guess my agency, is sure, put it on your website. Your website, you want to be able to show up for all sorts of things in SEO and AI for your website, but take that same content and put it on whatever forum is relevant for your customer and for Google, because the odds that that'll show up and people want to go there and get value from it are much higher than someone maybe going to some post you put on your website.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with this 100% because you have done a lot of research that way in terms of how it actually has an impact on the increase in rankings and on the increase in clicks, especially with certain high authority positions there in terms of the placements that they give to other sites, what has been the real actual impact on those sites' position before and after. So I totally get, what you're saying. Perfect, Andrew. And I mean, like we were discussing earlier, you have been in the industry for quite some time now. You have seen enough summers and winters, right? Enough Google updates, and with all now the AI storm and everything. What is that one update or, industry level shift that you have witnessed during your journey, which you feel, has had a very significant impact on the SEO industry at large?
Well, certainly all this AI stuff is causing the most upheaval, I think, in the industry. And actually, it's been great, I think, for the industry because I'll tell you my experience with it is, it really started amping up this year when Google rolled out AI overviews to everywhere. I think the first 6 months of this year, I spent a lot of time with a big question mark. Like, what does this mean for us as a business? How do we credibly speak to clients about it when we don't even know anything about it, really? Like we are going to have to learn. So I think for the first 6 months of this year, we spent a lot of time thinking about it. How do we test this stuff? And like, but I think that if you'd asked me how I was feeling about it, I'd say really uncertain. Like maybe this is the end of SEO or something. I don't think I was that dramatic, but I was like, I don't know what we're going to do about this. And then I'd say this summer, as we really started to figure out how to affect this stuff and could see that clients were eager, like they're way behind us in thinking about this stuff. They're starting to have these conversations inside organizations, but 99% of them like are clueless. And so it gave me a lot of confidence that, wow, we're so far ahead of everyone else. Not in the SEO industry, I mean, but like compared to our clients, we're so far ahead that it's going to be great for us because who else to make sense of this stuff other than SEOs, really? And so I'm really excited about it now because it feels like this kind of like a moment. There's been several moments in the evolution of SEO where it's kind of Wild West and it's open to anybody to figure it out. And I feel like this is one of those moments where if you can come up with a credible strategy and kind of execute it and operationalize it, you've got a real advantage for your clients. And what I've seen on the client side is the first 6 months of the year, at least in the States, it was kind of dead a bit because everyone was kind of not sure what to do about Trump and the tariffs and all this uncertainty about the economy. And like, no one knew what was going on. It was really awful, right?
Yeah.
And so no one wanted to commit to anything. And now what's happened with this AI stuff is I think everyone's like, you know what? We need to figure this out sooner rather than later because we can see the negative impact on our traffic. And so we're starting to see a crazy increase in demand right now. I don't know if that'll keep going, but if the last month is any indication, it's going to be a really good Q3, Q4. So hopefully that is the same way for everybody in the business.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Andrew. Perfect. Yeah, this has been a great conversation, Andrew. But before we let you go, I would like to play a quick rapid fire. All right. Since you mentioned about Google at the beginning of the call, what is your last Google search?
The last Google search I did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy. We are working with one of the biggest real estate websites right now that is losing traffic for rankings for specific addresses.
Okay.
So the last search I did was my own address to see how they rank for it. And they don't rank well.
Okay. I see. All right. Moving on. If not for SEO, Andrew, where would you see yourself, in what industry?
I think I always thought I would be a writer
Wow.
at some point. I'm glad I'm not in a weird way, but it seems like an awful business. But I think that's what I kind of wanted to do. And I worked in entertainment. So I always thought the reason why I was working at Showtime and NBC was because I wanted to be in the entertainment business. So
Right.
I think I'd be in the entertainment business. Yeah.
Nice. Where do we find Andrew on Friday evenings after office or after work?
At McKay's Beer Garden down the street, which is great. Or in my hot tub, maybe. I don't know.
All right.
Hanging
Your
out with my family.
Your celebrity crush.
Crush. Wow.
Go for it.
Who is my celebrity crush?
Ah,
It should be
come
whoever
on.
pops into my head, but come on. You know who I love is Emily Blunt. She's great. I dig her.
All right. The last one, Andrew, will not go you any further. What did you do with the first paycheck of your life?
I think I got a roast beef sandwich. I was a paper boy. I don't know. I probably bought some bubble gum or something. Who knows? Yeah, I should have done something. Should have put it in a Roth IRA. That's what I should have done.
Come a long way from that. Perfect, Andrew. This has been a great conversation for our audiences. I'm sure they'd want to get in touch with you. How would they do that?
Actually, can I show something that I'd like the audience to check out? Let's see. Here we go. We're gonna go to screen on Windows. So 2 weeks ago, I made this subreddit called Local SEO for AI. And my thinking was kind of what I talked about at the beginning was, oh, I could put this stuff on my website, but it'll be much better place to have it on is on Reddit, where people are talking about this stuff. So I've added, I think, 11 posts to this. I've done nothing to promote it, like nothing. And already it has 69 members, and this visits number is wrong. It's had over 1,000 people come to it so far. And again, I've done nothing to promote it. It's starting to show up in Google. Like everything you write on Reddit is indexed in Google within minutes. And when it hits 100 members, I'm going to start to promote it a bit and invite people into it. And I imagine it's going to snowball and kind of become like a place for people to discuss this stuff. And so what I think will happen is my name is right here on every post. And so in theory, what should happen is when people are using AI and they're typing in about local search, that this should start to show up. And if I do it right, well, I'm going to rank really well, and it's going to create some conversations with potential customers, and hopefully just be a nice resource for the industry. And so I think, so go to Local SEO for AI and check it out and make some comments. If you have, join it. And if you want to be a moderator, let me know. I don't have any other moderators right now. And think about this as a strategy and how you would do this for yourself or clients. I think this is like a kind of where SEO is going.
Lovely, lovely. I'm sure our audience would kind of, jump into it and share their views there. Lovely. Yeah. Lovely, Andrew. This has been a great conversation. And as I said earlier, thank you so much for taking out time to do this with us. Really, really appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.